I'm excited. Today I have my dear friend, she's also a co-worker of mine, Miss Amber Keith. and as you guys know, we have been discussing fertility journeys. I never like to say infertility journey just because, I don't like to speak anything negative or anything contrary to what we believe in our faith. And so we have been talking about beautiful testimonies of women's journey to their miracle babies. And so I have Miss Keith here with me who's going to talk about her journey, but we've just been talking about the before, during, and after. A lot of times when women are sharing their testimonies, we get just a little bit here, a little bit there, or no parts of the after whatsoever. And so we've really just been talking about the before and the during. So before the pregnancy and then the during, like while you're pregnant, just some of the things to expect. And again, you never have to adopt someone else's experiences as your own. Um, but it is good to know, some of the things that other women have gone through so you know what you want to pray for or you know what you want to pray against. So I am going to give the floor to Miss Keith. And, Amber, I would just love for you to share um, a part of your journey that you were actually telling me about the other day, as far as like when you got pregnant and then, all that. I'm going to just let you start with wherever you want to start.
Okay. My story is such a unique one. So it has definitely been quite a journey to get to where I am. So I guess I would start with, before we ever conceived a child, my husband and I were trying for 5 years, and we had lots of different fertility treatments. We traveled to Birmingham, and we did IUIs, and those didn't work. And I struggled with PCOS and some other things. And of course, when they do those fertility testing, your husband is tested too normally, and of course, all of his levels were perfect and great, and I've never seen anything so good. So then that weighs on you and in your heart. So it was kind of a big tense time. So we decided to just stop trying. Probably, I guess it was like September of 2008. We had a little girl come into our life at 8 months old. We didn't have any children of our own, but she needed someone to care for her in this time, and so we gladly opened our home and our hearts to her. And so we were okay with pausing on our trying for them because our little JC was just so important to us, and a big part of our life. So it worked out that she's 13, and we have full legal physical custody of her. She's our daughter. So we kind of gave all the fertility stuff put it on the back burner a little bit. We had prayed about it. We had sought assistance with just like figuring out what to do, and so we decided to just kind of let it chill. So in, I guess, April of 2009, we found out, because I thought there was something else wrong, that we were expecting, and it was very unexpected. It just kind of popped up, and boy, we were shocked and surprised and happy all at the same time. It was probably the one of the happiest days I can ever remember, because we were told that it would never happen on its own. And
Wow.
when we kind of stopped and let God take control, and we stopped trying to force the issue, it had happened.
Mm.
And it was, from the beginning, it was kind of a different situation. My levels were all off and things, but I was monitored. And with all of that, we ended up having vanishing twin syndrome with one of our twins. And so this was so early on that we almost didn't catch it. We would have never known there was a twin if I had not had a special appointment to see what was going on.
Could you
And then everything
explain
went
to
well.
everybody what like the vanishing twin syndrome is for those who don't know?
Yes. Yeah, vanishing twin syndrome is basically very early on in your pregnancy, where you're pregnant with multiples. It could happen with triplets, quadruplets, anything like that. But basically, the one twin absorbs the other, and they normally say that it happens because that twin didn't have, there was something wrong normally, that it didn't have the nutrients it needed. It wasn't forming correctly, and it was just kind of the way that your body naturally helped make sure that one twin survived if they couldn't both survive. And so there was never a signature heartbeat there. It was just there was like a different sac, and that was it. So it was something that was hard at the time, but we understood kind of that, we still have one baby that we're growing, and it made it a little bit easier to kind of handle, because it was so new. We didn't even know until it was already too late, to know. And there's really nothing they can do about it either. So it makes it different than just other things like a miscarriage, because I've had one of those too. And so it's very much an emotional roller coaster there, because you're happy for the baby you have, and then you're sad because there could have been two, because twins definitely run strong in my family. So it's a very genetic thing for us.
Gotcha.
So everything with Kylie was going well until about 21 weeks or so. She was actually at her 19-week appointment measuring 2 weeks ahead of schedule. She was moving a lot. Everything looked good. And then at about 21, 22 weeks, I started experiencing blood pressure spikes, chest pains, things that were not normal. And so we started going to the doctor very frequently, and he's put me on blood pressure medicine. We increased the dosage. I was at, for 3 weeks of my pregnancy, from 23 weeks to 26 weeks, I was at the doctor's office 3 days a week. I went to the ER at least 1 day a week, and I was in labor and delivery at least 1 day a week since I had hit 24 weeks. My blood pressure was still going to like 180 over 120 at times. And it literally felt like somebody was taking their fingernails and pulling them into my chest and just trying to pull me apart.
Wow.
And I knew something wasn't right, so we kept going back.
Okay.
I kept going back and said, because we know our bodies better than anybody else, especially better than a doctor or anyone that's not living here in us. And we know that things just don't feel right and normal. And we kept pushing for answers, and my doctor kept telling me, I am the high-risk doctor in this town, and I am capable of handling this. You don't need a specialist right now. We're not going to go that route just now. And so he kept upping my dosage of medicine. I was on like 2,000 milligrams a day of blood pressure medicine.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was still spiking. I would have 180s over 110, 180 over 120. I think there was one that was almost 200 over 120. And so, we were trying everything we could. And at 26 weeks, 4 days, we went to the doctor again. Nothing was happening. That's when he finally agreed, because he did an ultrasound. He had put the ultrasound off for a week, and he said, we need a specialist. The baby stopped growing, because she was the same size she was, maybe just a smidge bigger than she was whenever we had gone in on week 19 to 20. So right around that time, she had stopped growing, and she was measuring 2 weeks ahead then. And so he agreed to send me to a specialist, but not the one I asked for. But I was at this point, I was like, thankfully, we're getting a specialist. He told me to go home and pack a bag, be ready to go to Birmingham the next day. Birmingham never called the next day, but by that afternoon, I was not feeling well. So we went to the labor and delivery unit. And after lots of things happening and going on, I started feeling sick. And the nurse kept kind of dismissing it as, you're just young and pregnant. Because I wasn't very old at that time. That was 11 years ago, so I was about 26. And she said, if I can't monitor you, I can't see your baby, so I guess we won't know what's going on with her. And it was kind of like taken aback,
Whoa.
But I knew I was going to do anything to protect her.
Right.
And so I demanded that. I said, you've got to let me go to the bathroom. I feel sick. So when I came back after I got sick, they put me back on the monitor, because they had done an ultrasound, and I was leaking fluid at that point. And this is 26 weeks, 5 days pregnant, and September 30th of 2009. And at that point, this was probably around midnight, they came in to put me back on the monitor, and her heart rate was in the 50s. And so that's when the room kind of erupted with craziness. And they took me straight to an emergency C-section where they delivered her. Apparently, my placenta abrupted when I got sick and I was in the hospital. And so she had to be born by emergency C-section. And so she was born October 1st, 2009 at 12:44 in the morning. I arrived in the OR at 12:25. She was born at 12:44, if that gives you any indication of how quickly they worked.
Wow.
And she was 1 pound, 8 ounces, and 13 inches long. And so they whisked her away to the NICU right away. And so for the next 2 weeks was, of course, touch and go because she was tiny for her age. But she was the sweetest, cutest, most precious little girl. She didn't get bothered by anything they did to her. Around day 8, we noticed that her belly was swollen and bruised and distended. And the doctors were telling us that they were very concerned about it. So we started researching because nobody would give us any definite answers. And we found out about necrotizing enterocolitis, which is called NEC for short. And basically what that is called the death and disease of the bowel. And it affects over 10,000 premature babies and full-term babies every year. And this was the statistic back in 2009, so I'm sure it's more now. And basically over the next few days, we watched her get sicker and sicker. And then on October 14th, she went in for emergency surgery because she was going septic. They had found a perforation in her bowel. So they went in and took out 25 centimeters of dead and diseased bowel from her ileum to her jejunum, put in an ostomy bag. And then that night we were allowed to stay in the NICU overnight room and visit her as much as we wanted because she was so sick and so fragile. And then the next day on October 15th, we lost her at 11:30 that day. The battle was just way too much for her, and there was too much damage done with the sepsis and all the things going on. And so that was the absolute worst day of my life and will always be the worst day of my life because the very first time I held her was when she was passing away. And so that was, it's one of the hardest things to talk about, but it's not one of the hardest things to talk about anymore because I feel like people need to know that these things happen and that it's not anything that you do wrong because, I fought so hard and I felt so guilty about it for a long time is that, my body couldn't carry my child. I'm not good enough to carry her to full term. What does this mean for me? I couldn't save her from what happened. But after her passing, we went to see a specialist 6 weeks later who went over all of her doctor's records from my appointments and then all of the NICU records and my records from delivering. And what we found out was that my placenta was weak because the doctor did not treat my PCOS as he should have when I was asking for it. And so when we learned that, it really kind of stuck with me that I will never stop fighting for what's right for my body and for my health and for my future pregnancies because I know what they need now. And I will follow my gut and I will follow my heart to know. And so it was a very important moment for me to know that my body can carry a child. We just have to have a little support. And a lot of times when women have miscarriages and when they experience loss, they feel like they're a failure and they feel like there's nothing that they could do differently. And a lot of times they just don't have the answers and the support from their medical professionals that they need to make this successful. And so I definitely use that platform to say, a maternal fetal specialist is the best thing that I could have ever done for myself. He told me what happened with Kylie's pregnancy, and then he prepared a plan for a following pregnancy. And Kylie was born October 1st of 2009, and on November 1st of 2011, I delivered a 37-week, full-term, healthy baby girl with no issues at all. she was absolutely perfect in every way. My pregnancy was perfect, and I did use Clomid to conceive her. And so there was light, a rainbow at the end of this storm, and so we knew that that plan worked, and that doctor listened to me and knew what I needed, and I did everything he said to do because I was not going to stray from that plan. And then in 2016, we had a miscarriage with an unknown pregnancy. We didn't know we were pregnant until I went to the emergency room due to another injury that I had, and they ran a test and told me it was positive, and I was like, oh my, this is on its own. And then 3 days later, we lost our little jelly bean. We named that baby Jelly Bean. And then we got pregnant by surprise again in 2017 and delivered a 32-week, otherwise healthy, just early baby girl, because we followed our plan with our maternal fetal specialist again and found out early enough to get all the medications we needed. So my story has been ups and downs and waves and a roller coaster, but I've learned so much about myself and about what I need from my doctors for that to happen, for me to be healthy and safe with all of those things. And I've learned a lot about my faith too, because all those things will test your faith for sure.
Listen, that is so true. And, the first thing I want to say, Amber, is, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. And I know that will never be enough. I get it. I know. But it's still, that doesn't, I know no matter how many times you tell this story, it will never get old. Ever.
That's true.
Because
yes. I can do it without crying, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Man, so much I want to say, but I'm so sorry that you had to endure that, because I know that was not easy.
Right.
But I'm so grateful that, even after that, that you were able to deliver your miracle baby. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I really want to point out with this, for women who are watching, who are trying to get pregnant, or women who are currently pregnant, is to really get you a doctor, just like Amber said. Get you a doctor who you trust and who will listen to you. By no means are we bashing doctors. No means.
Right.
But we are saying get a good one. Get
Yes.
one who is going to listen to you, and furthermore, you listen to your own body. And don't ignore. Don't ignore. No, you're not crazy. No, if you feel like something is going on, more than likely something is going on, and so
Right.
absolutely. And I've kind of already shared pieces of my story as far as like having to really advocate for yourself. So I won't go, into that too much. But I do want to ask Amber, for women who are still in this, what would you say? And even women who've had miscarriages, because I know one of the things that we talked about is how, it did test your faith and how you were angry at God. I've been
Yes.
there too. How did you get from this place of being angry at God to not being angry with God? How did you get through that?
That is a really good question, because sometimes I look back and I'm like, I don't even remember when it switched for me sometimes. But the day that she died, my pastor at the time told me it's okay to be mad at God. He's God, He can handle it. He's always going to be here for you no matter what. And that permission I almost took way too seriously, because I was mad. I was mad. I was so mad, Ashley. I was so mad. I was on my knees the night before she passed in that little bitty hospital room in the NICU while she was in just right outside the door. And I was on my knees sobbing and begging for her life and begging for Him not to take her from me, that I could not live without my child.
Absolutely. I would have been doing the same thing.
Right. And of course, I look back at it and I'm like, it was so selfish of me. But I mean, as a mom and as her mom, it was normal. It's a normal reaction, and it's
Absolutely.
something that yeah, I mean, it's something you will feel. And so I, people would respond to my grief with, well, God needed her more. And she's in a better place. And things that fueled my anger. Because for a long time I was like, there is no place better for my child than in my arms. And then I thought that God was telling me I was not capable of caring for my child. Because we make things up in our heads because we don't know how to handle these emotions. And when you lose a baby, whether it's a miscarriage, whether it's stillbirth, whether it's a premature baby or SIDS that happens, months into a child's life, when you lose a baby, people don't want to hear about it. It's a taboo topic, and people want you to be quiet about it. Well, the one thing that I am not is quiet.
Amen.
And
because somebody needs this.
Yes, because I knew that I needed to advocate for other people to be okay to talk about it. It did not need to be swept under the rug. And my goodness, she's my child, and she's a part of my family, whether she's on earth or in heaven. And I am going to share about her until the day I die. And if it helps somebody else, then that is what my purpose. Even if it helps just one person, that is, I have met my goal. And I want the world to know her name, because she knew nothing but innocence and love and kindness and purity. I mean, she is the purest soul, and she is my little guardian angel, and she is my baby. And I am so proud to be her mom. And I think that as time went on, I started looking at things and saying, this good thing has happened because of Kylie's short life. This good thing has happened because we make memory boxes every year for her birthday. We do a birthday party, and we donate them to the local hospitals.
That was my next question for you. The after, how you have, like, everything that you've done after. So thank you. Go ahead. Yes, talk about that.
That kind of leads me to where my faith is now, like doing these things. And we donated, we did March of Dimes. We had a team and walked for several years. We were the top family fundraising team in our area for 3 to 4 years in a row. We've raised over $25,000 for the March of Dimes. Wow. In those years. We've worked with Project Sweet Peas, which is another local organization that helps in the NICU. And they do bereavement services. For Kylie's 10th birthday, we did wedding gown donations. I wanted at least 10 gowns for her 10th birthday so that they could be made into angel gowns for families who have lost their baby. Wow. And we got 12. So we have seen so many good things, and I think that it just took time for me. I had to grieve at my own pace. Okay. And about 2 years after, I mean, it took, I guess whenever I had Briley, I really kind of saw that there was so much goodness, because I did not have my pregnancy taken away from me early. And I got to experience a normal C-section where I was awake and my baby was placed in my arms. And I think at that moment when Briley came, that healed so much of that brokenness inside of me. There's always a piece missing. But knowing that I could carry to term, and I could have this beautiful rainbow, this just really helped my soul. So when Briley was born in 2011, in February 2012, my husband and I were baptized at our church. The love that was shown to us when we were pregnant with her really helped. I think that people being non-judgmental and not saying those things that are hurtful, God needed her more and stuff. When I found a place that was not telling me those things, I was able to start healing on the inside, and I was able to slowly step away from that anger. And then, my relationship grew through that church, and then there were some things that happened in that church that kind of pulled us back. But now we're in a church that is just phenomenal, and that embraces all of our children. Because, when I went through the miscarriage after, it was a different hard, and I was not angry at this time. My faith was in a good place, and I understood. I knew it was sad, and it broke my heart. And I always felt like strongly that Jelly Bean would have been my boy, since I have a house full of girls. But I think that God gave me this platform for a reason, because the day that Kylie died is known as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day, and October is National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And when I realized the impact that that could have on others, I knew there was not any mistake in the day she died. God doesn't make mistakes, and I understand now that there are so many things that I may not agree with, but I understand a little better. Now I do have questions later on down the road when I get there.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? The first thing I'm going to do, though, is ask for my baby to be placed in my arms, and I'm sure she'll be waiting for me right there.
Yeah.
Because my grandparents are up there spoiling her, I'm sure. But I think it just takes time, and you have to give yourself time to feel what you feel and don't apologize for it. That is the biggest advice that somebody gave me in one of our support group meetings. I attended support group meetings. There are support groups for miscarriage. There's support groups for infant loss, for infertility. And I really, really, really encourage people to look past that stigma that's attached to those and to find somewhere where you fit in and you can talk to other people. Because when I started talking to other moms who had gone through what I'd gone through, I felt validated. And I felt like what I was feeling was normal for my situation. Not that I felt like a normal person at that point, but I felt like it was normal. And so time, surrounding yourself with people who are going to lift you up and just be there for you. I just needed sometimes a person to let me cry.
Yeah.
I knew a girl that would go to yard sales and buy dishes, like random dishes for like 25 cents. And when she felt like it was too much, she would go outside and throw them against the concrete to release that feeling.
Wow.
And it helps, like just finding something that works for you. Because I was grieving for 5 years before we could ever conceive.
Wow.
So I've gone through a roll of grief, and we all do.
Wow. And I think, wow, you said something so important just for people who may not know how to respond to people who are going through that. The last thing that you want to hear are, the cliche phrases, they're in a better place, or, like sometimes.
You can have another one is another terrible one.
Yeah,
at least you know you can have kids.
Yeah. And some people, Amber, they don't know, so if you're one of those people watching, please just take into consideration that you may sound a little insensitive when you say certain things, even though, understandably, you may not come from a malicious place, but
it stabs, it hurts.
It does. It hurts. And so, like,
and I really think that it's okay to validate someone who's going through this and say, it does suck and I'm so sorry, because it sucks.
It does.
I'm going to live every day for the rest of my life, and I have for the last 11 years, without my daughter. And I'm going to live every day for the rest of my life without the baby that I lost. And there's always going to be, I'm going to look at a picture and know there's not a day that goes by that they're not on my mind and on my heart. And I'm going to look at my pictures every time and say, Jelly Bean's not there, Kylie's not there. They are there, but they're not in those pictures. And when people see us out with our family, oh, how many kids do you have? I never leave out my children, whether they're here or in heaven. So you find out, if people want to keep it private, that's fine. But for me, I feel guilty when I don't disclose that. But I think people just need to know that it's okay to tell someone it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. And just say, I feel for you, and what can I do for you? The best thing that happened for me was when somebody came over and swept my floor, because I had no energy to do that.
Wow.
Or when somebody came over and got JC and said, let me take JC to the park today with my little girl. That's wonderful. Or just the meal, like somebody bringing a meal randomly, or saying, hey, can I bring you dinner tonight? Because grief takes a lot out of you, whether you're in infertility grief, losing a child, losing a pregnancy, or you're pregnant and you're having a hard time. Because I've been through a complicated pregnancy too. Sometimes just letting somebody know that you are there, but make sure if you offer to do something, you follow through. Oftentimes as grieving moms, we're not going to tell you, yes, we need this. You're just going to have to take it upon yourself to do it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I know we have to get ready to wrap up, and so one of the things I just want to add on to what Amber is saying, if you are going through a difficult time, whether you're trying to conceive or you're in the middle of conception, don't isolate yourself. There are people out here who are here to help you. And for those who are helping, just again, be careful how you respond. And sometimes
Yes.
people they just want to have a place to cry and to be angry, and that's okay. But there are
Yes.
people out here, ladies, please don't isolate yourself, because there is support out here. Not saying go and shout it to the world if you're not in that part of your
Right.
process, that's fine. But find somebody who you can trust, somebody who will allow you to just cry, have a shoulder, for you to cry on, pray for you,
Yeah.
scream with you, whatever. And so
Yes.
I want to leave you guys with this scripture of Galatians 6:9 that says, "Don't grow weary in your well doing, for you will reap a
Yes.
harvest if you faint not." And I know that when we are in certain and tough situations, it's hard not to give up. But giving up doesn't look like it doesn't look like you necessarily not trying, or giving up doesn't look like it's absent from your mind. Never giving up just means that you believe that you can have something good. You can have a miracle baby. You can
Yes.
have a successful pregnancy. Don't give up on that. Don't give up on your faith. It doesn't matter how hard it feels. Just always let there be a piece of you that remembers that you can. Even if it looks different from somebody else, that's okay. Don't give up on that miracle baby, because if you give up on the miracle baby, you'll never see that beautiful face. So I am
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful to you, Amber. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. If there's somebody who wants to partner with some of the things that you do, how can they do that? I know you were talking about the wedding gowns, or if somebody wants to help with that, because I one would
Yes.
love to do something.
If you want to, if you need anything, the best way probably is to reach out to my email, Amber Keith, KEITH09 @gmail.com. You can also, I have a support group online. So if you've had a miscarriage at any time, if you've had a loss of a baby, it's called Healing Hearts for Baby Loss of North Alabama. And it's a private group on Facebook, but you can search it and it'll let you request to join. It hasn't been as active lately with a lot of the older members going on, but we all have new members coming in and we're working on revamping it. So it's a good place to go and read everyone's story and see what that goes through. Project Sweet Peas is always a good place. Project Sweet Peas of Alabama is an organization I support, and they help with boxes. And then we just do lots of things in general. Like if you want to do the wedding gowns, I will send you a couple of links that I have at home if you email me, and I can get you with those too, because some of them will close off donations for a little while they catch up on sewing the gowns.
Awesome. Awesome,
Thank you
awesome,
so much for
awesome.
having me and letting me share my story. I hope it helps somebody.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you just for your courage, your honesty, your transparency. Thank you so much. And we
Thank
pray that
you.
someone was blessed. As always, guys, if I can partner with you in prayer in any way, DM me, let me know. I'm more than happy to pray for you. But until next time, love you guys. Bye. That was so awesome, Amber.
Thank you.
Thank
I feel
you.
like my story takes forever to tell, but I feel like they needed to know that I have gone through basically the adoption, the